What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson. We're back again with another Friday stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I've come up with for the week, and this week is no exception. Let's see. Let me see if I can tell who's in the chat. Once again, Summer is going on a well, she's basically writing a screenplay in the IRC. So what can I do? Okay, hello to. Let me see if I can find out who's in the IRC. Hello to Summer, Pie the Sailor, Ethan, Fade. I think I see Alejandro there. Gunn, Wilhelm von Weiner, Valentino, Kaovsky, Jody. Just checking the people in the YouTube chat also. All right. So I'm still waiting on my computer to update Geeks because I have to get the latest Geeks, well, a relatively recent Geeks commit to do what we're going to do today, but that's going to get done at some point. Sorry, Summer, I'm not going to read your whole screenplay there, but I appreciate your effort and your creativity. Let's see. Jody says, I did some closure dev on Emacs back in the day and had the benefit of sitting next to a wizard. Eventually I moved on to another project and couldn't justify the upkeep. Closure's fun, but we're talking about Guile Scheme today. And Jody says, now I'm teaching and the System Crafters videos have been really helpful in getting org mode functional. You're welcome. Wilhelm says, why does Restream bot say the IRC comments are Twitch chats? Because the IRC is being bridged to the Twitch stream chat because Twitch uses IRC, or one of the interfaces to Twitch chat is IRC. So I basically bridged the Libra chat IRC to Twitch IRC, and then that gets bridged across to the YouTube chat. So yes, that is a little bit complicated, but that's sort of what we do here, right? Ace X says, is Ari on Nix? I don't know. It might be. Milner says, where is the IRC chat? Hello, Milner. It's irc.libra chat on the System Crafters-live channel. Go to systemcrafters.net/live and you'll see the information. All right, so we got some folks on YouTube. I don't know how many people are on Twitch right now. Hello to Darth Vader. Please don't blow up the stream. All right. So today we're going to experiment with a new IDE for Guile called Arei. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, the updates. And the reality is that I don't really have any updates today because it's holiday time and both of the kids are home from school and I'm off work to help watch the kids and also spend time for the holidays. So I haven't really had any time to like pay attention to what's happening on the internet. Or to do any kind of system crafting. So today is just a sort of relaxed stream to check out some cool new stuff that is coming out now. And we're going to be trying it live. I haven't tried it at all, so bear with me. It's going to be one of those streams. We'll see how far we can get with it. I have to make sure. Okay, Geeks has finally finished polling the channel. That's great. Life is Hell says, glad to see good content by someone who isn't the insufferable Primogen. You know, Primogen just, you know, he has his character he plays. I think he's cool. He does some cool stuff. But I don't have the energy level for that kind of thing. Hello to Dave. Benoit says he's an actor, I think. Well, yeah, he's definitely sort of playing a character. But anyway, as I mentioned, it is holiday time, and I just wanted to say happy holidays to everyone. I don't know what holiday you celebrate. We're celebrating Christmas here on Monday, I think. But to all of you who celebrate any holiday this month or to any other nearby month, I don't really know. We got people all over the world, so I don't really know what holidays people celebrate. Just want to say happy holidays to all of you. We will have a stream next Friday, probably just like a looking back on the year type of stream where we just talk about like the kind of things we covered over the year and my thoughts about how things went and what we will try to do next year, because this year hasn't really been as active as I would like, but maybe next year will be different. We will see. But yes, Merry Christmas to all of you who celebrate that, and happy holidays to the rest of you. And yeah, I didn't really have time to prepare anything special for the holiday, but I don't really do that because I don't know, like everything's on the fly here. So I apologize to all of you for how, you know, shooting from the hip style all of this is, but you know, it's fun that way. I think we have fun in the chat. All right. So since Geeks decided to finish updating my channels, let's try out a new Guile Scheme IDE called Ari or Arei. I'm not sure how that's supposed to be pronounced, but that's how we're gonna go with it for now. Ari, where's my Santa hat? Yeah, that's not really me. I don't really like dress up games. What can I say? Anyway, this is a project by Andrew Tropin, who is the author of the RDE Geeks distribution, and also the original author of Geeks Home, which is a pretty big feature of Geeks for those of you who use that. But this is a new IDE that is intended to be a replacement and an improvement upon what you get from Geiser. So Geiser has been the Scheme IDE for years, and it does support multiple Scheme implementations, quite a few of them actually. And it's gives you the ability to do REPL-based development, which is pretty common for Lisp languages. But there are some limitations to it, mainly in that it's not asynchronous. The way that it interacts with the Scheme process under the covers is not asynchronous. So if you try to evaluate any Scheme forms, it will block Emacs. And also, it means that there are some things that it can't really do as well as maybe other language server-based IDE integrations into Emacs, because language servers typically are asynchronous in the way that they operate. Oh, hey, Andrew's here. Great. Yes, Andrew is a digital nomad in the real sense, because I think he's camping most of the time. So, yeah, I think Andrew may not have the best internet connection, but I'm glad to have Andrew here. So apologies to Andrew. I haven't really looked into the details of any of this stuff beforehand or watched the recording of the Emacs Conf talk. But if you do want to see an explanation of these projects by the person who created them, I would definitely recommend going to check out Andrew's talk at Emacs Conf 2023, which is called Bringing Joy to Scheme Programming. I believe that Andrew gives examples or demonstrations of how to use this, and it will be much more concise and better than mine. But part of the fun of what we do here, I guess, is that we figure things out as we go, and maybe people learn a thing or two from it. So hopefully that's the case anyway. We're talking about marzipan in the chat right now, it seems like. Me, I'm just eating like candied ginger these days. Okay, I'm also eating a lot of like fudge and toffee and stuff because my wife just keeps making stuff, but yeah, it is what it is. I think I see some Hebrew in the chat. I don't know all of the Jewish holidays right now, but I know there's a few. So happy holidays to all of you as well. Let's see. 7 kilograms of marzipan causes 12 kilograms of additional body weight. That doesn't surprise me. Ace says, someone tell Tropin to work on a static type checker for Guile next, like MyPy. I think that a few people might be working on something like that, so that would be useful for sure. So I have very little information here for you up front because I didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare, but we'll take a look at the repos for these projects. Ari is the package for Emacs, which is sort of the front end for this development experience for Scheme, but there is a more important component that is the bedrock of this new effort, which is the Ari's RS project, which is basically a new RPC / REPL server for Guile Scheme. And the difference with that is that it's not using the typical approach of having an, what do they call it? Like a comment shell for the REPL interface and just going directly through that. It's actually based on the NREPL protocol, which is something that I believe was created for the purpose of closure development. So if you've used Cider before, the pretty popular closure IDE inside of Emacs, Closure uses NREPL under the covers to communicate with the closure runtime. So now we have a similar environment for Guile Scheme, which I think is really exciting because it means we might have a lot better editor integration with the runtime as we're doing interactive development of Guile Scheme programs. So it can be used for programmable interactions with a running Guile process for implementing REPLs, IDEs, test runners, or other tools. There's a disclaimer that it's in an early stage of development, but since Andrew suggested that I show it on stream, I'm guessing it's far enough along that people could start using it. Let's see, Mastering Life says in the chat, I wanted to ask you for some time, can we use Geeks on a modern machine only by changing the kernel? I mean, that's most of the work. Sometimes you need to do some other things like load up firmwares for features like if you have an audio device that requires the SOF firmware, that may be an extra step you have to take, but in large part, just using the main Linux kernel should be enough to get you there. Let me check something. Okay. So Guile Aris was previously known as Guile and REPL because it is an NREPL implementation, renamed to avoid any confusion with the network socket REPL. It's not a user REPL. It's actually not a REPL at all. It's an RPC server. And for those of you that don't know what RPC is, RPC means remote procedure call. So it's basically a server that accepts commands coming from some client and then it returns responses. So instead of it being a REPL where you are sending scheme forms to be evaluated and you take whatever the output is and just use it. In this case, it's more of a server that can do multiple things at the same time because you're not just evaluating a scheme form and getting something back. You're sending a command that could do something asynchronously, and then later it might return a response. So this gives you the ability to have more of a rich experience because you can have things like, completion requests coming in to get like code completions in the buffer, or evaluating things, or many different things you would need in an IDE experience that aren't as easy to do if you just have a straight REPL. So this is a better design for a rich IDE for Guile Scheme. It's intended for use with the Ari IDE, but you can use it with other generic NREPL clients, and there's a link to a list here, I'm guessing. Okay, so nrepl.org is a website that is about the protocol, I think. And there's a number of clients. Now, the interesting aspect of this is that if it does support NREPL, then it means that this NREPL implementation can be used in other editors. So there are other editors like IntelliJ IDEA or Eclipse. I think there's probably a VS Code one somewhere here. There's ProtoREPL for Atom, which I don't know if people use that anymore. But the point being that this actually opens the door to Guile Scheme being a more or less first-class citizen in other editors as well, which is pretty nice. So let's see, what else? Usage. There are multiple ways to utilize Ari's RS with the, I think that's a typo. It should be Ari, right? Oh, no, it's Aris. Yeah, my bad. Most straightforward is to spawn a standalone server and connect to it from a client. So there's a little snippet here of a shell invocation using Geek Shell. And you should be able to start up Guile with the Guile Aris project, basically kicking off an NREPL server and then connecting to it from within Emacs. We're going to give that a shot a little bit later. Let's see. And as you can see, the development is hosted on SourceHut. So if you want to contribute to the project or report bugs or anything, there is a mailing list, I believe. Okay, so you basically use RD Discuss mailing list to send any feedback or bug reports, I think. All right, let's see. Other REPL's quirks. I think this is an explanation of why this project would be better than just using a REPL. First of all, text-based REPL over socket is not interruptible. So if you have a some kind of process running, or if you have your scheme environment running and you try to execute something, you can't really interrupt the command and continue on what you're doing. I mean, technically you can in a REPL. I think you can use maybe Control D or something to drop into a debug prompt, but that's not really a good way to cancel a running operation, I guess you could say. So this kind of system of having an RPC server makes it easier to actually have cancelable commands. Call CC works when pasted into the prompt of the REPL, but fails when evaling from the buffer. Yeah, if you use continuations, then you're basically like sending your code off into the mystical universe of the scheme runtime, and it may not come back to you. So you may lose your ability to kill an infinite loop or something that would you would like to be able to cancel. Not possible to see standard out until evaluation is completed, so you can't stream the output of running something. That's pretty important. Tests hangs REPL on errors. Ooh, I don't know what Geiser. CapF function is injected. That's the completion at point function for completions in a buffer. Even if there is no connection to the REPL, and throws errors preventing other CapFs to work. So I think what this means is that for other, in Geiser, you have these integrations into the scheme environment that you have to evaluate some code to wire all this completion code up. Maybe that's what it's talking about. And it will, if you don't have your scheme environment set up correctly, then it might break CapF for other things. Maybe that's what that means. Dave says, does Ari use Guile system REPL modules? If I recall, it does not. Yeah, because it's an RPC server instead of using like a typical REPL. Let's see. Go to definition doesn't work with input from port. I don't know why that's the case. Maybe that's just a matter of Geiser not having things set up right. Dave says, not using system REPL is a problem. It means that auto command or meta commands don't work. Maybe it does somehow, though. We'll have to try it out and see. Anyway, so that's sort of the overview of the in REPL side of things. But the Emacs side is the Emacs Arei project, and this is basically a client to the in REPL protocol, specifically for use with Guile Aris. And let's see, the functionality it provides is asynchronous interruptible module aware evaluation. If you want to know what that means, well, asynchronous we've covered. Interruptible means you can cancel running operations, like if you try to cancel completions or cancel the execution of some form. Module aware means that if you are in a file that represents a module in a project, when you evaluate code inside that file, it recognizes that you're evaluating a form in a module, so it will put you in the right module context to evaluate that form, which is probably like a define for a function or a value or something. Restartable continuations, both delimited and undelimited. That's pretty interesting. I don't know if we'll be able to test that very easily today, but we'll see. Proper standard out, standard error, and standard in handling. So I guess it's better stream management for program development. Exception and backtrace pretty printing, so better backtraces, which I would actually like to see because Guile backtraces are kind of impenetrable sometimes. Evaluation result tooltips. So I'm guessing it will show a tooltip like by auto evaluating some form in the buffer. I don't know. Session management and buffer project association via Sessman. I think I've heard of this, but I don't know exactly what it is. Session manager for Emacs-based IDEs. Okay, so it's kind of a common thing used in many places. Andrew says in the chat, yep, meta commands don't work, but I'm in doubt how good the commands concept is because it's not composable and hard to access from inside Guile code. Dave says, Guile needs to switch all exception generation over to the new structured exception system. That would be cool. So anyway, a session is basically a way to attach buffers to a given project, I think. So I think that's what that means. Module-aware completion via cap F. I would like to see that for sure. What is this? Is this a video by Andrew? Yeah, it's a video by Andrew. So Emacs completion explained. I haven't looked at this, but I'm sure it's pretty helpful. So if anybody wants to know how completion systems work in Emacs at the lower levels, you could probably watch that video by Andrew. And capf is a function, or sorry, it's a feature of Emacs. It's basically completions in buffers. So for instance, if I go into an Emacs list buffer, .files, .emacs, modules, core, sure. If I say dw/ and then hit Control-Alt-I, it gives me this completion list here. I think that's capf. Now, the fact that this is looking kind of weird, I wonder if that's the stupid Copilot mode. Yeah, I don't know why that keeps turning on. I told it to turn off. All right. But anyway, capf is completion at point functions, basically. It's a list of functions that get called to do the behavior of the completion at point function. So it's kind of a pluggable model where you call a completion at point at some location in a buffer, and if there's a completion function registered or functions registered, each of those will get invoked to return back a list of possible candidates for what would come next in that buffer. So the Ari hooks into that basically, which is what a lot of things in Emacs do. All right, so to use this, you install Ari and you install the Ari's RS. And I think basically a similar example here as well. We're in Emacs with Ari package installed. Let me see if, yeah, I need to check the console. Yep. It's there. Okay, good. If you have Geiser installed and you want to prevent it from interfering with completion, you can clear that variable. Yeah, I should probably turn Geiser off. All right, so to do this correctly, because I don't have Ari installed in my home profile, I guess I could do it. Why don't I just do that? It might take forever though, so we'll just keep talking. I'm gonna put it in my configuration. So David will home services Emacs. Is this right? No, it's this one. Okay, so where do I have Geiser? Right here. So Emacs Ari and Emacs Ari's RS. Let me go into my DW dev file as well. Go to the scheme section. I think that the auto mode A list is probably already set up with, okay, so just scheme mode. Apparently I don't actually have Geiser automatically set up to hit scheme buffers. That's good. Auto Geiser mode auto P. Whether Geiser mode should be active by default in all scheme buffers. Let's turn that off because that's what is that a config variable? It's a variable, okay, so it's not a custom variable. All right. So that will do the use package for that, but I still need to update my home config. So let me just start that process because it's going to take a while. I'm going to do this in a vterm. So update home This may be a huge mistake. The alternative is to do this in a shell, but then I don't have my whole... No, actually I do. I'm debating on the right way to pull this off. I could do this from a Geek shell, but then it's going to clash with my my running Emacs instance, unless I go to core and turn off server mode or server start. Let's just do that for a second because I don't really need it at the moment. Okay, so we're in vterm, Geeks shell, Guile next, Guile Aris RS, Guile Arei, and let's see. Oh, whoops, is that Emacs? It's Emacs Arei. Okay. Let's see if we can do that. I don't know how long this is going to take. Yeah, Andrew's telling me in the chat, Geek shell, Emacs Arei, you will have all you already have. Yeah, all my my current load path will get pulled up. All right, so I'm missing a lot of stuff in the chat here. Oh, that was pretty fast. I was expecting more pain. Did I actually do the right thing? Okay. Cool. Cannot load Arei. Why not? Profile. I don't see the current profile here. That's kind of weird. Anyway, let me check the chat real quick. Mastering Life says, do you think it's a good idea to use Guile Scheme on Emacs? Well, yes, Guile Scheme, I think you should use Guile Scheme in general, because that would enable you to use GNU Geeks. Fade says, I'm trying to imagine the freaky geek out there using IntelliJ to write Guile. Probably someone who was writing Clojure before. Fade says the Guile runtime isn't threaded. Yeah, there are threads. It's just that, you know, the REPL by default is not threaded. Let's see. There's some discussion between Dave and Andrew about meta commands, and Dave says that Hoot, Goblins, and Fibers all ship with meta commands for inspecting their respective systems. And Dave says, I think the path forward is to continue to use the Guile REPL API, modernizing it to support async I/O. That would be nice, so long as the RPC could work. Could. Gunn says, are you using a VM for your streams? No, this is an actual machine. Bipakori says, is Geeks hard to learn from Pac-Man? Geeks is a very different beast. If you just use Geeks as a package manager, it's pretty similar because you just install packages. But the power of Geeks comes from using the declarative system and home configuration functionality. Wilhelm says, integrate Goblins into Geeks somehow and I'll switch. Well, I mean, I don't really know what... So, adding Goblins to Geeks is not going to make it 100 times more useful. It's already very useful. You should just use Geeks if you have any intention to use Geeks. Goblins is a nice addition, but I don't really think that that's something that's like a blocker for you to use Geeks. Zoli says, is diving head on into Guile as a first language a thing? Sure. Okay. Thanks, Andrew. That makes sense. So if you have heard that learning Python as a first language is the way to go, learning Scheme as a first language is a little bit harder. But with Guile, at least you have an ecosystem with packages that are pretty useful. And Guile itself has a lot of libraries or modules in it that are pretty useful. So if you want to write actual code that works and can do non-trivial things, Guile Scheme is definitely a good language for learning to program. If you've already, well, in general, I think it's a good language to learn to program. The biggest problem at first is just the fact that the syntax is a little bit different than what you're used to because of all the parentheses, but conceptually, Scheme is not very difficult. So I think it's a good language to learn because it actually will teach you more to understand more about like how computation works is without like all the bells and whistles that other languages may have. Because you kind of have to use like recursion and some other things like that. Recursion is not scary, folks. It's actually pretty easy. Let's see. Goblins make the geeks. Dave says goblins will make the geeks implementation better in some ways, but it doesn't change the user experience. Yeah, I imagine that the geeks daemon will have some benefits from that, but the average user will not really know that it's using goblins. Fade says Lisp is a better pedagogical source than Python in general. Python is a good starter language, but I would say that JavaScript is also a good starter language, and it might be better. But, you know, I love Scheme, so. Closure hate? Trip, I don't hate Closure. I don't know who said anything bad about Closure. Closure is great. Closure is a very elegant language, but I don't really use it. I did use it. Okay, anyway, let's get back to it. So Andrew told me the mistake that I made. Gunn says, didn't you experiment with a Lisp Python hybrid once? Yes, that was called Hi. I think somebody else might have mentioned it in the chat before, maybe. Hi is basically a transpiled language. It compiles down to actual Python. That's okay, Trip. There's definitely no hate for Closure here. It's another member of the family of Lisps. Emacs, PGTK next, I believe I should do here. Emacs next PGTK. The reason why I need to do this is to make sure that the Ari package gets put into the right profile. Pie the Sailor says, learn a Lisp first. Python is forbidden fruit. I don't know, man. I mean, Python's fine, but I think it's kind of like Python was super cool back in like 2005. It's 2024 almost. Let's broaden our horizons a little bit. Andrew says Emacs PGTK usually enough. Yeah, probably. What am I actually using, to be honest? Am I using next or no? Yeah, okay. Just making sure. Dave says, I'm all about Scheme, but I learned to program with QBasic. Yeah, I learned to program with line number basic, but I wouldn't say that I was actually, you know, programming at any level of skill, even with QBasic. Actually, the first language that I felt like I was really writing code was C. That was a long time ago too. Fayed says, I've used Common Lisp to bootstrap people with no programming experience to a state where they're useful junior developers. Well, this is why I think Emacs is useful. Because, yeah, Trip says Trash 80 Basic. Yes. I don't know if it was Commodore 64 or Trash 80 that I used Basic on first. It was one of the two because I have both of them. And that's where I was doing line number Basic first, for sure. It may have been Trash 80. By Trash 80, I mean TRS 80, the Radio Shack computer. Anyway, what was I saying? All right, we're waiting here for the profile to get constructed, and then we'll get to it. Interestingly, we have 56 people on the YouTube stream right now, which is the most we've had in a while. So it seems people are interested in Guile development, which is cool. Oh, yes. Thank you, Respect to Taco. So my point was that Emacs is very useful as a way to get non-programmers to start writing code, because if you want to do anything non-trivial with Emacs, like as far as configuration is concerned, eventually you're going to start cracking open your init.el file and sort of, copying and pasting stuff in there. Maybe eventually you decide you want to try to learn a little bit more, maybe write your own custom functions, etc. So I would say that Emacs Lisp for a non-programmer is the best starter language because it actually gives you immediate utility to customize a program and add your own functionality to it. Now, I guess many people are probably not really thinking in terms of how can I add functionality to a program, because we're all sort of conditioned into this state of being users, right? But I think the people who are sort of gravitate towards Emacs are the type who would inevitably become configuration hackers, at least, and then maybe become programmers as a result of that. So I kind of see that the gateway is Emacs and Emacs Lisp, but then eventually you might go to either Common Lisp or Scheme, especially via Guile Scheme, or maybe Clojure. There's probably a lot of people who would go that route. All right, what happened here? Okay, I didn't do to make a pure profile here. What happened? Andrew said, I also started from QBasic, had a little bit of Visual Basic 6 plus Pascal, and later switched to C and later C++. Yeah, VB6 was cool. Benoit says, someone mentioned Clojure? Yeah, I don't know. We're just chatting. Clojure's, Fate says, Clojure, the best language with the worst runtime. I don't know. Trip says, I see it from the opposite side. I see Lisp as a great way to get people hooked on Emacs. That is true, yes. Okay, let me unbreak this profile. I may just have to install this in my own Emacs. Because we're clearly missing something for native comp. Error invoking GCC driver. I'm debating on whether I should do this the other way. I don't even know if this is necessary. Should I do that or no? Let's see how long it takes. Which one am I in? Okay, close that. Let's just do that. Because I'm not sure anymore what's happening. And I might regret this. Okay. Wilhelm says, genuine question, does Clojure have tail call elimination? Recursion is bad on the JVM. I don't know if the JVM supports it, really, but I don't think that Clojure has tail call optimization. Gun says, where has Perl gone? All strange syntax quirks into one bowl and properly tossed. Perl is still in quite a lot of use, actually. There's many like really old scripts that people use for things that they don't want to touch or rewrite. because they don't actually understand what the script is doing because of the syntax. So yeah, there's a lot of Perl around. It's kind of like how there's a lot of COBOL around in the world. There's just a lot of Perl that people just don't want to touch. They just run it. I'm probably wrong about that. I don't know. Maybe people still use Perl, but I feel like there's better options for scripting languages. Okay, so Clojure supports tail call optimization via the recur function. All right. What does that do? Set up like some kind of recursion context? Gun says COBOL is way too verbose. Fade says it's a trampoline. That makes sense. All right. All right. All right. Somebody who's watching this later on the recording, whenever I finally figure out how to get this load up, just put a timestamp in a comment so that the people who come with the recording don't have to sit here and watch me scratch my chin and try to figure out what's happening. Saluti says there's also fennel. Fennel is interesting. I haven't really used it. Yeah, tail calls are special. Tail call optimization, like with a language like Scheme, where recursion is such a core part of how you write code, like you have to have tail call optimization. You use fennel at work, wow. What kind of projects at a job do you have where you would use Lua or fennel? Lua is very interesting to me. I don't know. I think it's cool. Okay. Damn. Can I just tell it to turn off native comp? We don't want that anyway. Native comp. No native compile. Non-nil to prevent native compiling of Emacs Lisp code. Let's just do that instead. Set q no native comp. All right. So let me try that one more time. I'm gonna go. Was it in here that I did that? Whoa. Okay, let's do this again. I told you not to do native compilation. What don't you understand? Is it because the folder exists? All right, let's get rid of that. Stop it. Forgive me for using a mouse. What is it? Control Alt W, right? Okay, so let's go into that folder. One more time. Is libgcc JIT in your profile? It should be because the Emacs Next has that. Gun says, it's interesting to watch some guys on YouTube programming across all the zoo, Rust, Lua, Go, whatever, each day another language. I would like to do that at some point, but I don't know, like you gotta have a lot of time to stream that much. I would love to stream a lot more, but let's see. iOS game development. That's cool. This is very annoying. It's probably because I haven't updated my home profile yet. There's something out of sync. This is why you prepare before you do a stream. I think I should probably put this in my early init. Do I have an early init? What? Hold up, hold up, hold up. No native compile. No wonder. It was ELPA, no, EL and cache, and that was this one. I don't know why it's doing this. No, not that one. Yeah, there must be something out of sync. I think what's happening is that I haven't updated my home profile and everything's out of sync with this new one that I'm loading up. So let's just do it. Let's just get it done. All right. Let's just hang out in the chat for a second. Sorry, folks. Let me write up a little bit. Jody says, reading up on Guile now. I'll have to give this a shot. Guile's fun. I like it. Fade says, World of Warcraft used Lua as an extension language. Yeah, Lua gets used a lot for that purpose. Dave says, Lua is ... okay. The thing that's interesting to me about Lua is that they have a good JIT implementation. Some interesting work done on that. Pie the Sailor asks about Shen. Talk to Fade about that, because Fade keeps trying to tell me about it. I've looked into it a little bit, but I haven't tried it. Dave says, none of these languages can hold a candle to Scheme. IMO? Yeah, I don't know, man. Scheme is great. Load no native variable. Yeah, that might have been part of the problem, but I think it's just because my this Geek Shell profile is fighting with my really out of sync home profile. Trev, hey Trev, Shin is Fade's trick language when he made a website for it and there's no docs and stuff. Yeah. You know, Shin is such like hackery magic that it can't possibly have documentation because it just sort of steals the... Fade is going to disagree. There is a website. Pi says, no need to learn it. There's almost no packages for it right now, just the language yet. All right, let's see whether this thing is gonna hurry up and get finished. And then we'll see what other problems we run into. At least I can kill the desktop environment on this box and restart it. Saluti says, Fennel Lua has a better module system than Scheme. Well, the problem with saying that is that every Scheme implementation has its own module system. So, I mean, some use R6RS modules, but Guile does its own thing, which is better, I think. I don't like the syntax for it, but it actually does work pretty well. Love seeing all these Python dependencies get installed. I'm sure that's for Qt browser. R7RS libraries are a bit better, I think. However, R6RS, I think, well, I don't know. I don't know if it's exactly the same as what Dybvig did in Guile Scheme. I know that he was sort of part of the design of the R6RS modules. Do they have modules, or am I imagining that? Gun says, by the way, what standard does Guile implement? It implements, I think, R6, but it also has a library that pulls in R7 macros and whatnot. MPV Empress failed. All right, where's the log? Who knows what happened there? This is completely unrelated to what we're trying to do here. Wayland client not found. What? I've been having a lot of trouble with MPV and Geeks recently. All right, so that would probably be in... Let's take that out. Fade says, I feel like Geeks is always punching you in the face. The problem I have with Geeks is that I don't update it very often, so sometimes I end up running into issues, especially whenever I'm trying to do things live. Gun says, can you make a stream about scheme standards? I don't know how interesting that would be, but sure, if people want to see some information about that, I can try to do it. Benoit says, Fade, and it's winning more often. Yes, it is. That's not a knock on Geeks, though. It's just me not being prepared. If I was prepared, it would all be fine. Yes, let's wait forever for the Google Noto font to get installed. Yes, so Milner says, what does RXRS mean? Yeah, that's basically just the pattern for the scheme standards. In fact, since we're just sitting here waiting, how about we just talk about that for a second? So, whoa, wrong screen. So, R7RS Wikipedia. That's a redirect. Fine. Anyway, so the set of standards or specifications that describe the language scheme is the RXRS or R6RS, R7RS, etc. There's up to 7 of them. Basically, is just like the description of how the language is supposed to work, what standard procedures are defined in the language, and some hints for implementers. And it moves pretty slowly. I think that, let's see, R6RS, was it 2006, they say? Okay, they ratified the standard in 2007. R7RS still isn't fully done yet. I think R7RS Small, which is a minimal version of the spec, is done, but the R7RS Large, which is extended modules, is still not done yet. The 9th draft was made in 2013. They closed the draft in, 2013 is when R7RS was closed, but many scheme implementations still don't implement R7RS yet. So in the scheme world, things kind of move slowly. But the reason why is because the core language itself is so capable that a lot of the stuff that gets put into the specification can be done already by any implementation. It's just a matter of writing it. So I don't know, it's just a way to like codify what the latest patterns of scheme are. I wish that there was a bit more movement, but I think there's too many academic folks that disagree on how things should be done, involved in sort of the driving of the language. That's not a bad thing. It's just, I think that there's kind of like a breakdown in agreement. Mjolnir says, my understanding is that you can just bend Scheme to your will for your use. In many ways, yes, but you still do need a Scheme implementation that is capable enough for you to do that. I would say that Guile is one of those. The only place where Guile is not as great as maybe other implementations is that it doesn't have very good Windows support at the moment. It does have Windows support, it's just broken. So if you want to write cross-platform apps, then it's not so great. However, if you are on GNU Linux primarily, Guile is a very good option. Wilhelm says, a lot of knowledge is required to find the right tool in Scheme, right? It could be. Or at least, the problem I've always had with Scheme is I have very specific things I want to do with it, like game development, cross-platform app development, etc. And you can look over 20 Scheme implementations and you will find that there are maybe 3 or 4 that are almost perfect, but then you try to use it and there's just like, it's just not, it doesn't get it done. So finding a good home Scheme implementation is difficult. That's why I keep saying people should just use Guile, because Guile is good enough for a lot of things you would want to do. Plus you can use it for GNU Geeks. I had been using Gambit Scheme a lot, and Gambit's pretty cool. It's like one of those Scheme to C compiler languages, but it's not really like implementing standards fully. So R7RS support is kind of there, but kind of not there. Wilhelm says, just use Guile, should be a campaign. Well, maybe it will be. I mean, with things like Guile Hoot coming and the ability to do web development basically with Guile, if you follow Dave Thompson on Mastodon, I almost said Twitter, I don't know why, on Mastodon or Fediverse, he made a post today about some ideas he's hacking around with using a HTMX-like approach with Guile Hoot in the browser, which I think is pretty awesome. So anyway, point being, Guile is about to get a whole lot more interesting, and maybe next year will be the year that we will try to push Guile hard as a language to be used. And having a nice IDE in Emacs is another part of that. So being able to try out this Ari project would be helpful to sell that idea. Geeks is not really helping me at the moment. Well, it's the combination of Geeks and Emacs and all this stuff, like it is a bit of a problem having to know deeply what's going on in all of these parts. Wilhelm says, maybe we can see Guile Emacs in our lifetimes. I'd say the chances are fairly low on that, unless a number of people get together and decide to really make it happen. Because I know that Robin Templeton did a lot of work to, bring that project to a point where it worked, but I think that they're not really working on it anymore, and nobody else really picked up the project and went with it. Fade says, does the Guile compiler emit machine code? Yes, the Guile compiler compiles to its own bytecode, but then it has a JIT compiler using GCC Lightning, or is actually a fork of GCC Lightning, which is another, is it called Lightning? Is it Lightning? Lightning. Ning. Where is it? Is it GNU Lightning? Lightning. Okay. All right. Anyway. Yes, it JITs native code. .go file sounds like bytecode. Yes, it's not a good extension. 2024 year of Guile. We'll see. I got to start making videos on that to help with the marketing. I got to start making videos in general because I've been out of the game for too long. Saluti says, Guile was hard to embed on mobile. We went with S7 after battling Guile for a while. We unit tested against both. It's pretty cool that you all tried so hard to get Scheme going on phones. Or Guile specifically. All right. This is the part building a Geek's Home profile that takes the longest. This building profile, which is just like cross-linking a bunch of stuff. I think that it must be because of all the desktop service things that have to be put together. It takes forever. We should rename the .go extension to .gc. Gun says, programming Guile on a phone with a swipe keyboard? Well, you could probably do that today if you install Termux. I would guess that Guile is on that. Termux, Guile. Yeah, there's a Guile package on Termux. So if you want to go write some Guile code on Android, install Termux, and then install Guile using the package manager. Dave says, Guile emits VM bytecode. Native code is planned, but not there yet. I thought there was a JIT. Unless we're talking about like JITting bytecode for optimization purposes. Oh. I guess if the question is, can you compile a standalone binary using only Guile, the Guile compiler, the answer is definitely no. All right, thank God. Let's restart Emacs and see how many things are broken. Loading. I think it's working. Okay, so cool. It's in there. So whomever is gonna grab the timestamp, now is the time. Now we can finally start experimenting with this project. Let me go into an actual Scheme project folder. Let's try Geeks and see if that works. I don't really know if it's gonna work, but we'll give it a shot anyway. I think we've got 100% CPU usage because it's doing native comp, even though I keep telling it not to, but that's fine, whatever. Doesn't really affect the stream, so that's okay. Let's, we don't really need it to be the latest code. It's fine. Let me check the docs. How do we start this up? Okay, make sure the Arei package is loaded, open a Scheme buffer, and connect to the RPC server, sysman start. So I probably need to start an RPC server. Let me try this. In fact, I could do this whole thing here as well. Let me go to scratch buffer first. I'm gonna drop that in, just get rid of this. And then I'll take this back to a vterm and paste it. Okay, in REPL server started on port 7888. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder path. Let's go to projects, code, geeks, and do the same thing. Dave says, I appreciate a number of things about Common Lisp, but I don't want to use it. Same here. I don't think anything is bad about Common Lisp. I don't know, man. Something about Scheme just matches my aesthetic sense and how I want to write code better than Common Lisp does. All right, so it is sysman start. So we're gonna go into a buffer here. How about GNU packages Emacs. I don't know. Sessman start. Oh, okay, that was easy. Connected to in-REPL server. And it gave us a little bit of information here. Development related and other commands. Evaluate last S expression. Control C, Control E. Yep, okay. And evaluate S expression. I don't know what the dot there is supposed to mean, but that's fine. So let's see. Kind of curious about what's going to happen here. I'm hovering over this just to see if it gives me any details, but it doesn't. That's okay. Control C, Control E. All right, so I did actually use Control C, Control E right after this license LGPL, and the Arei buffer did give me back the record printout of this license definition, so it is working. That's cool. Andrew says in the chat, you can also do Geek Shell, Guile Next, Geeks. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's a good point, actually. All right. Let's see. Let me see if this is actually. Oh, okay. So I evaluated the symbol of this package, m17in_lib, and it did actually pull out the package definition for that as well. So I'm not exactly sure what it has loaded for that to work. Let me evaluate this package definition. Unspecified. I'm guessing it's because that was the defined public and it doesn't return the definition. That's cool though. Is there a REPL? Ari REPL? REPL. Because I don't think I can type into this buffer. I feel like this is, well, it says REPL. Hold on. Yeah, so that's not a buffer for you to type in. Maybe Andrew can tell me in the chat. I did not tell you to do Copilot agent. Get out of here. Unbound variable, okay. No separate REPL, only API. All right, that's fine. So how would one then go and build something? Like if I wanted to run the build meta command, which I guess that's part of the conversation we were having earlier. Maybe this is only for just, having development experience, I guess. But Andrew did tell me he uses it for working on RDE, so I'm guessing there must be some way to execute things. Is there any docs? Let's see, tree. Is there like an info file or anything? Not yet. But we can always look at the code. So let me see. Let's do a completion at point. Type in scratch buffer or just in a regular buffer. Okay. So completion at point. Let's see. EM. Okay, so I do get completions, which is great. And it's completions inside of this module, I believe. So if I were to go to another module, like let's say Emacs XYZ, and type EM, Control-Alt-I, now I'm getting, let me turn on, what's it called? Keycast mode, tab bar mode, there we go. So EM, Control-Alt-I, which is complete symbol. You can see all of the, all of the completions here, which are packages that are defined inside this module, plus probably anything else is being pulled in as a symbol from the imports. So that's cool. That's completions that we saw. And they do work pretty well. I feel like that was smoother than the experience with Geiser, for sure. Let me see. Do I have any other Guile-based projects here? There's Hoot, obviously. Sure. Let me see what happens if I do the same thing in the Hoot code base. All right, so how about compile.scm? I'm gonna do sesman start here. Got a separate in REPL session going on for that. So now if I, let's see, invert tree, I start typing in INV. Yeah, so this one is not working. I wonder if it's like a load path thing. Hoot won't be on the load path. All right, so I guess in Guile itself, I had to set the load path, right? Let's see. Is this it is compiled, right? Okay. So Ari load. So there's not a command I can use for setting the load path. Sesman load. No. Add. Nope. All right. There is a, let's see, Guile load path. I think there's a way to add things to load path. I know there's a variable, but add to load path. Okay. So all right. This is the folder that I want to add. I'm just going to copy this little path right here. And then if I go into the compile buffer, I'm just going to tell it. All right, so that's now added to the load path. I can type in INV. Load path is set on the Ari's RS side. All right. Interesting that, let's see, what does load path tell me? Is it running? Let me check proced. There seems to be some activity on the in REPL server process. I don't know if it's currently, let's see, Control C, Control B. All right. Oh, okay. So I killed whatever was happening before, and now, all right. Now let's try it again. There was something running in the background, excuse me, and then I terminated it using Control C, Control B. INV. Okay, there we go. Cool. So now that the project has been added to the load path in the Guile process, we get completions for things inside of this module, which is great. What else is in here? Initial, blah, 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 compile file. So if I were to type in compile dash file, let's see, do I get signature help? Let's see. Hey, now. So that would be the next thing I would want to compile. Because, you know, this function obviously has a positional parameter of input file and also has keyword parameters, output file, blah, blah, blah. I would like to see some kind of hint about what that is. And currently it doesn't seem to be giving me that. Let's see, what about the Arei? What about a function? Arei. Completion candidate. Yeah. I wonder if that's just not there. No LDoc integration yet. Okay, that would be nice though. Is there any way to call up that information without LDoc, or is it just something that needs to be put in for the client side? In fact, find library. Let's just take a look at Arei itself. I just want to see what the code has in it. Go away. All right. Get module. Yep, that makes sense. Auto. Okay, cool. Get greeting message. I see that's where that comes from. Documentation can be obtained with Control HS. Well, let's see. Describe symbol. Okay. Not documented as a symbol. Well, that's weird. info lookup symbol. Okay. Is that just to look it up in the manual? Go to definition, documentation, and other features not implemented yet. So if you are interested, you, the viewer, are interested in there being this type of functionality in Ari, definitely consider contributing to the project, because it seems like there is some pretty important places where contributions can be made, I think. I'm not sure how much Andrew is looking for help at the moment, but Andrew's a busy guy, so I imagine that he does need some help. So compile file, yeah, that didn't work. Let's see, anything else? Control HS. Yeah, it's an info page. Okay, yeah. So that could show up in the Guile manual, I suppose, for, let's see, what's the thing that would be in the Guile manual? Module use, probably. Control H, capital S. And certainly is. Control HS. And yes. There we go. That's in the Guile manual. Okay, I didn't know about Control H, capital S. That's pretty cool. Useful for sure. I mean, the thing that is important is that you do get completions and the ability to execute code and even cancel the execution of code. So those are certainly important things. I wonder what else you could do with that. Let's see. Going back to the code, Ari eval. So evaluate S expression. If I go to the definition of that, request eval expression. Is that just, let's try this. Ari evaluate, wow. S expression. Yeah, I'll probably need to escape those. Into file during parsing. I missed something. Oh, this one. Wrong. Okay. Oh, it doesn't want a string. Oh, it literally wants an S expression? How about that? Let's try it. Look at this. So we're going to treat it like an actual form. Okay. Oh, it is. Okay. Buffer substring, no properties. Cool. So you would need to have something in a buffer for that. I'm looking for a function you could just call to evaluate a string, period. Dun, 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 dun. Probably it doesn't work like that because it's depending on sysman to pull out the current in REPL session. And as I say that, here's a function for that with current buffer, RE connection buffer. Let's check that out. No, go to definition. Xref def. I don't know what the... There it is. Yeah, sysman current session RE. Yep, all right. Call it interactively. Yeah, you can call it interactively. Oh, that's a good point, actually. So it does have interactive. Read from mini buffer, nil, nil, nil. Interesting. Does it know which session I want it to do it in? Let's go into an actual scheme buffer, maybe. That worked. If I go to the Ari, there's a key binding for that, isn't there? Control C, Control H. Switch to connection buffer, Control C, Control Z. There it is. All right. So foo got displayed. All right, fine. So we're able to write out the output. That's good. So it is possible to evaluate arbitrary forms, but you kind of have to be in a buffer, but that could be fine. Like, let's say if you were to write your own custom function to do something, like if you wanted to compile a Geeks package, if you had your own custom command that could invoke invoke the Geeks build functions. Mr. Putra says, are we using Hoot to compile to WASM? No, we're just using Hoot source code as an example for using Ari. So Andrew says, play with infinite loops and continuations. Well, infinite loop, let's give it a shot. Let loop. I think that Andrew may have typed something like this before. Display, actually let's format, eh? Format. Can't type today. That's enough, right? Control C, Control E. All right, so we're just like, cruising along here. What was it? Control C, what? So the fact that I can actually use Emacs at the same time is good. Like it's not completely hanging Emacs, even though it's running and counting up to 1 million right now. So if I can use Control C, Control B to cancel that evaluation, once it finally wakes up, I think, yeah, it's done. It doesn't actually give me like a REPL prompt or anything at the end, but I can tell that it did cancel the execution, which is something that Geiser can't do, I think. As far as continuations are concerned, that's a harder example to just make, but because continuations are kind of weird. Let me see if I can think of a way to do this. Call CC. I need a lambda that accepts K, right? If I just never call K. So if I fire off, I could basically just do the same thing, right? Just put this loop inside the continuation function and never call K to return back to the original point. So let's execute that. So now we've got this running in a continuation, basically. And what if I go and try to evaluate this at the same time? If I want to get the content of that symbol, oh, I probably can't see it because it's printing so fast that it's just gonna kill it. But Control C, Control B. Uh-oh. It's not stopping. There it goes. Oh, nice. Okay, so it tells me that it did stop somewhere. Okay, so it was able to kill that continuation, and that's an undelimited continuation. So that's kind of nice that you can kill a running continuation. Let's see. Define temp f, let loop io, call cc. So you're calling continuations inside the loop. That's pretty cool. It will enqueue the evaluation. Nice. Let me see. Lambda k set temp k 5. You're returning 5 back. Format t sleep. Calling the continuation inside. All right, gotcha. Okay. Okay, it will enqueue it if you evaluate something during the evaluation. Okay, gotcha. Understood. But that is good though. Like in Scheme, at some point you're going to run into code that uses continuations. I don't know how much continuations are used in like the standard library functions in Guile. And for those of you who don't know what a continuation is, it's basically it's a way to, I'm trying to think of the best way to concisely explain this. It's a way to have a function that when called resumes a thread of execution in a way. And the difference between undelimited and delimited continuations is that the undelimited continuation cannot be composed. It cannot be called as if it's a function and then return back to the original call stack. An undelimited continuation just blows away the entire call stack. So it's a little bit more unmanageable in some ways. I don't exactly know how you would write a lot of comprehensible code with undelimited continuations, but I'm sure that people have done it. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. So Andrew's example was to actually store the continuation or the K function. Format T. Is that inside? Gotcha. Okay, I see. Mr. Puter says, how good is Arei compared to Geiser right now? Well, I think what we're seeing right here is the fundamentals of Arei at work. Arei and the REs, RS in REPL implementation. The ability to asynchronously execute scheme code in the running Guile process is pretty important because it means that you would be able to develop scheme code and run it, run tests, etc., all at the same time without things getting kind of tied up. Excuse me. Which you can't really do with Geiser. Geiser, if you evaluate a scheme form, Geiser is going to be held up until the running execution is done. So that's a better Arei is better in that regard. I think that it would also be easier to write more complicated IDE functionality, especially custom functionality of your own using Arei. But that's a theory on my part, not necessarily something that I can show you to be true at the moment. All right, so Andrew has a more complicated example. Let me see if I can transcribe this over from the chat because I'm not in the chat on this computer. So let loop I0 define temp call cc lambda k and where is cont being defined? I think I need to have bindings for those, shouldn't I? Set cont k. Wow. This is going to be kind of freaky. Oh, having a read line in here, that's going to be interesting for sure. Like being able to use read line, you can't really do that. I don't know if you can do that in a Guile REPL very easily, can you? Maybe Dave's on, he knows. Let's see, string number read line. There's a 4 parens after that. Format T A colon A slash N I temp. Sleep 1 loop. Hey Ashraz. All right. Now let me see if I can digest what's happening in this function. So we got a loop. We're defining a function, which is, so we're basically returning. What is TMP? Equal read I TMP. Where is the read I being used? That must be, we must be missing something in that example because I feel like there's, because this read I is not being used anywhere else. Anyway, if I were to fill in the gaps, hey, TD back. Cont new value, cont another. Oh, did I miss that at the end? Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Thank you. See you, Fade. Cont new value. Right. Okay. So this is what we're doing. That's good. You're resuming the execution. I got it. Another value. Cont read I. So I think we're queuing up some stuff here. Let me look at this for a second and redigest. So we're starting a loop. We're storing the result of calling the continuation function. This wrapper here is not actually the continuation itself necessarily. K is the continuation. So we're setting K into cont. Yep. And then it returns TMP. But whenever K gets called, that value is actually going to jump back here and it's going to get stored into TMP. So if equal read I temp, we read the number. Then we write out I in temp. We sleep one, and then we loop. Let's just eval that. Unbound variable equal. I need to put the question mark there. That's obviously my fault. Whoops. All right, let me make sure I execute this right. Okay, so the loop is running. Now if I were to run this new value, okay, it doesn't seem to do anything. If I were to run this, doesn't do anything. If I run read I, apparently I have written it wrong. Because temp should be getting replaced with... And what is cont? Oh, should I interrupt? I gotta interrupt it. Thank you. All right, we saw new value there. Another value. Unbound variable read line. All right, so which module is read line in? Guile. R dilim. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Putre says, I had problems running infinite loops with Geiser. Ari seems to work just fine. Yeah, it definitely seems to work fine. All right, so I'm going to run this loop again. It's going to start over. I'm going to run new value. It's queued up. If I break, then you see new value get printed. I'll run another value, and then break. Another value gets printed. Break again. Now, standard in. Okay, so the standard in input is coming in through the mini buffer. Wrong argument in position 1F. Oh, that was cool. There's a little pop-up there, a little tooltip. Interrupt first, please. I'm trying. And I did, didn't I? I could have transcribed the code wrong. All right, let's try this again. We're just gonna go straight to read I. Yeah, so I did something wrong. Wrong argument position 1, so false is definitely being invoked. Anyway, we can see that it actually is working. I mean, the code is being executed, even with continuation. So that's nice. So it seems like what we need. String number. Oh. No kidding, right? Okay, let's do this one more time. Control B, Control C, Control B to break. And then Control C, Control E to eval. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so it let me set the value of I. Cool. All right, so that did work. All right, thank you for clarifying that. So the example does work as intended. And now I can just use Control C, Control B to break that loop. And it's done. All right, so what I was about to say is that it seems like what we need at this point is more code that builds on top of the foundation that Andrew put together here, because it does work. We just need more IDE type functions. So things like LDoc integration, so that when you start typing out a procedure call, you get the details of the signature of the procedure, like the parameters of the procedure, especially keyword parameters, maybe like the documentation string for the procedure. I say procedure and not function because in Scheme they're called procedures. Also anything else like jump to definition for any symbol. So if I were to go to Kant here, yeah, Andrew says xref as well. So xref find definitions doesn't work at the moment. I believe there is xref def, yeah, xref show definitions function. So there's another kind of like hook point where Ari could hook in to do a go to definition behavior for any symbol that's in the buffer, which would be pretty useful. And some of these things I imagine will require there to be implementation on the server side as well, because finding the definition of this symbol, you know, requires like analyzing the source file. So yeah, you would have to do both the client and server side implementation for some of this, but I imagine that for some of you out there who are looking for a Scheme project to work on, this would be a pretty fun way to work on something that actually would have value to other people. So if you don't have your own ideas for a Scheme project and you want to learn Guile, then you might consider contributing to this project, but you also might have to do some work to, like, you know, polish things in a way that would work well for the project. And Andrew, I've seen Andrew, you know, responding to contributors and whatnot on his discussion list. I think it's going to be very easy to work with Andrew on this. So I highly recommend considering contributing to this project, because Guile needs a better development experience if we're going to like actually bring Guile to like the next level in the next year or two. Obviously, Guile Hoot is one place where that's happening, but the development experience needs to, or let's say the IDE experience inside of an editor needs to improve to the point where we can keep pace with these things. I think Hoot is also an interesting place where a thing like Ari could be used, because if you have a REPL running from within the browser, you do need an asynchronous connection to that as well. Especially if you have a REPL running from within the browser and a REPL running within the server that is serving requests from the browser code. So if you want to do full stack development with Guile, which is now going to be a thing, you need to have an IDE experience that is asynchronous so that you can deal with the things happening in both of those processes at the same time. So Geiser probably is not going to cut it, because Geiser is written with a sort of an older application model in mind. It could be updated. I'm not saying that it can't be, but I think experimenting with Ari and maybe some improvements to the built-in REPL functionality of Guile is going to be the path to improving that development experience, to enable people to have a comfortable environment for developing new types of applications with the Guile scheme, to use things like Guile Hoot, etc. Dave says in the chat, async browser REPL over WebSocket is the dream. Yeah, definitely. Any of you who have followed Clojure over the years, you've probably seen, what was it called? Flywheel? Was it Flywheel? Figwheel, okay. So Figwheel is a REPL for ClojureScript in the browser. It's a really cool example that was probably one of the earliest examples of this in practice, was like a Flappy Bird clone. And in the editor, you could dynamically you could write the functions and evaluate them and have them be sent to the browser in real time to add the functionality to the app and also change it as it's being run. For people like me and Dave Thompson, to be able to have this kind of interactive development experience in the browser, it would be really awesome for game jams, because then you wouldn't have to keep reloading the browser every time you make a change to the Guile code. So I think Ari plus the work that will be done to implement a REPL inside of the browser using WebSockets for Guile Hoot could make this happen. And I'm very excited for the possibility of that. So work will be needed both on the Hoot side and on the Ari side and the Aris side to enable this. And maybe even in Guile, as Dave says, I think we still need to update Guile's REPL API to work with non-blocking IO and also make sub-REPLs work better. Yeah, sub-REPLs for sure. Non-blocking IO, I mean, there's already something for that, right? Oh no, there's the polling REPL, which is not really doing it with non-blocking IO. For Mesh, my scheme implementation, I actually did do a non-blocking IO REPL. But I don't have sub-REPLs. Dave says a co-op REPL is my thing that I got back in 2013. Yeah, co-op REPL is super useful. I've used it a lot, actually. So let's see. Shouldn't need it anymore. That would be nice. It would be very nice indeed. I like the fact that there is actually active work going on with Guile itself. So if anybody's interested in improving Guile, definitely check out the Guile Devel mailing list, because you might be able to jump in and help with some stuff there. And if you use GNU Geeks, you can get the latest improvements to Guile via the Geiser is upset with me now because I've used something else. vterm geeks search Guile next. I don't know how often this is updated, but the Guile next package has like the latest from the main branch of Guile as things get added, and things have been getting added recently, especially to help with the Hoot development. So you can have the latest and greatest of Guile functionality in Geeks pretty easily. Even if you just use Geeks as a package manager in another Linux distribution, you can pull in Guile next just like that. Gurab says, I installed Emacs on Linux. I'm a beginner and new Linux user. Well, welcome. That's great. Benoit says, it would be nice to see David Will and C. Weber doing collaborative technical music in the REPL. Oh boy, we need to have an overtone-like thing for Guile. There's another scheme implementation called Extempore, I think, that is kind of like a live scheme music environment. Where is it? Here it is. But yeah, that would be pretty cool. So yeah, I'm super happy with what I'm seeing so far with Ari. I definitely recommend watching Andrew's talk at Emacs Conf, because he's going to show you all the stuff. And how long was the talk? 22 minute, a 22-minute talk, which is better than watching me stumble around for 2 hours and not really get it working right. Yeah, 21 minutes. So check out Andrew's talk, because it will explain things a lot better than I did. Gorab says, I'm on KDE Neon, but should I change to Arch? Well, if what you use works and you're happy with it, then don't change. Because, I mean, I'm not really a fan of distro hopping. I feel like distro hopping is just a thing that it doesn't really teach you that much about Linux. It just teaches you how different distros work. So, I mean, Arch, I will say if you use Arch, you will probably learn more than if you stay using KDE Neon. But I I don't think that distro hopping is the solution. I think that sticking with a good distro and figuring out how to set up different environments yourself, it will be better use of your time. Andrew says, I'm a little surprised that nothing broke during the live demo. Yeah, the only thing that broke was my Emacs and Geek setup. But Ari worked perfectly. Like, as soon as I loaded it up, it worked perfectly. So that's good. TD Back says, in the end, distros don't quite matter. Just have fun and learning more about what you're interested in. Yeah, definitely. Andrew says, Ari's RS seems to be really reliable, not a marketing buzzword. Well, it definitely needs to be reliable to be a good replacement for Geiser, and I think it's already there, which is good. Trip says, Linux from scratch. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, as a learning exercise, certainly, you know, Linux from scratch, you will learn a lot. But for the sort of average Linux user who wants to learn a bit more, I mean, Arch is a good solution for that. Gentoo is also a good place to learn stuff, but then you spend a lot of your time recompiling everything. Though I wonder, does a person who uses Gentoo spend more time updating their system than a person that uses Geeks? Because Geeks can be pretty slow sometimes, pulling the latest commit of the channels, and then Gentoo has pre-made binaries now. Well, what about if you have use flags and you know, you've got your compiler optimization variable set a certain way? Gentoo binary packages. I had a lot of fun with Gentoo back in like the mid 2000s. Trip says that the LFS acronym says learning is for suckers. Yeah, maybe. Only for the default. Okay, only for default use flags. That does make sense, actually. TD Back says, next Friday's stream topic, comparing compile speeds between Geeks and Gentoo. Gentoo would probably win on compile speeds. But yeah, if you have to compile everything. Grub says, I've heard Gentoo is very hard. No, it's not very hard. I mean, I've not installed Gentoo in many years, and I haven't installed Arch from scratch in a while. However, in both cases, I think you start from, like, if you install it the sort of manual way from the terminal, in both cases you have to kind of set up a few different things yourself. I don't think that Gentoo is any harder than Arch, but like I said, I haven't installed it in a while, so I don't really know like what the state of the art is. But both Gentoo and Arch have extremely good wiki documentation for everything, so I don't think that either of them are going to be too difficult. Pi says, do a video on Mezzano OS, though it's a common Lisp OS may not be your thing. Yeah, I don't know, like, I don't want to make a video. Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't say I wouldn't do it entirely, but I could experiment on the stream. But, you know, OS experimentation sometimes doesn't go so well. Like, I tried to install FreeBSD in a VM on a stream once as a joke, and I don't think we ever really got set up into anything. Trip says, my first distro install was in 1993, Yggdrasil, so my opinion is irrelevant. Well, I haven't tried that one, but I did use Slackware in like 1996. Yeah, Benoit says April Fool's. It was an April Fool's joke. Gun, yes, I am doing the retro next week for sure. It will be a lot easier to do without preparation than this stream. So anyway, back to the point I was making. Gorab says, which OS do you use? I use GNU Geeks, which is I like it a lot. But it's not something that I can just like recommend that someone just jump right into. I have videos on this channel about how to install it and set it up, but still, like, if you're going from KDE Neon to something, you could consider going to like Arch first. because you'll learn some things, and then maybe Geeks next. I want to improve that situation though. But man, I just don't have time. Gun says stream takeouts, blunders, and goofs. Yeah, if I had time to put together such a thing, that would be nice, but I don't have time to put that together. Taking care of 2 kids is a full-time job right now in the holidays. Trip says, but seriously, LFS is the right way to learn what's happening, but not the right way to manage a system. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to do. It might be a fun thing to do, like a video series on at some point in the future, just sort of run through it so that people could see what the process looks like. I haven't done it myself, but I'm guessing, I mean, it's like, obviously the mundane things like partitioning the system is one aspect, but, you know, getting the base system set up, the folder structure, the init system, that kind of thing. Maybe if you have to like compile the dependencies yourself, that would take forever. So not such a good thing to do on a video, but let's see, anything else worth mentioning here? Yeah, back on the point of Ari or Guile in general, I would say definitely if you like writing Emacs Lisp, consider using Guile Scheme as your scripting language for your system, or for personal projects. Like if you need to write like a simple web server for something, there's built-in web libraries, web server and web client libraries in Guile Scheme. There's also SXML libraries built in so that you can generate web pages using Guile Scheme, which is pretty cool. A lot of fun with that. If you want to have a static website, you can use Dave Thompson's Haunt project to make a static website using Scheme, which is pretty fun. A lot of people do that. I use Emacs to do mine, but I have experimented with Haunt a bit, and it's a fun project to work with. There's a lot of stuff you can do with Guile. You can do game development. I mean, basically, if you look at Dave Thompson's projects list, there's like Chickadee, Game Development Toolkit, SDL2 bindings, et cetera, et cetera. So there's things you can pick up from there. There's lots of other libraries on the Guile website, Guile libraries. If you check out this list, there's all kinds of libraries for things you might want to do. So I recommend checking out Guile as a hacking language, like for just personal projects and tools. So that's a way for you to experiment with writing Scheme to do something useful for yourself or for other people. And also, if you want to like use GNU Geeks at some point in the future, knowing Guile Scheme is going to be very helpful because all the configuration and everything is written in Guile Scheme. So yeah, definitely check out Guile if you are looking for a fun language to learn that actually has value to you, because other Scheme implementations don't really have so many libraries, or aren't as well integrated into the host environment. Like, for instance, maybe you have to use a Scheme to C compiler to then compile the program. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Or you have to embed it into an existing program, or various different things like that. Guile is a really good, like, practical Scheme implementation to use. And then you can use cool tools like Ari in Emacs to do your development. Of course, that does need some work to add extra functionality that's needed for really good IDE experience, but it's a great start. And I'm really looking forward to using the latest or any new developments that come out of that. I'm sure Andrew will keep us posted on what happens there. Trip says, by the way, I think Ares is a reference to the Greek god of wars. In the case, it's Ares. Actually, the Greeks would say Ares. Aris, yeah, maybe more like Aris, because the alpha is alpha, so it's not an air, it's an R. kind of sound. All right, I think that's it for the day. So yeah, go check out the website for Ari's, or Ari and Aris. I have those in the show notes. Trip says, okay, but I'm Southern. Yeah, me too. But I live in Greece, so I've had to learn how to contort my mouth in a number of ways. Like to say the name Yorgos. That's not something that the person with a Southern accent can easily do without practice. Let's see. Andrew says Arei is pronounced Arei, I guess. Okay, that works for me. All right, so yes, check out the show notes. I'll put that in wherever that is. I don't think I have it loaded up. Anyway, I'll commit. There isn't a whole lot of configuration. Maybe I'll put in the command line, the command line shell for geeks that you can use to get this stuff started up. Anyway, like I said at the beginning of the stream, happy holidays to all of you. I hope you all have a great holiday time with your family or your friends, etc. I hope you get some cool computing devices for Christmas, maybe if you celebrate Christmas. But Trip says my ex-wife was Greek. Does that count? Sure, it counts. And we'll see you back here next Friday for the sort of year-end stream. It won't really be that prepared. We're just going to be, chatting, having a good time, and talking about what we'll do maybe in 2024. So join me there, and let's think about what we want to talk about and what kinds of cool things we want to craft and hack on in the next year. So yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you especially to Andrew for being here to help out with my bumbling about. And we'll see you all next time. Until next time, happy hacking. We'll see you.